Um, all right, welcome everyone for the Reimagine Cybersecurity, 50 Shades of Cybersecurity, where we're going to learn about staying in front of an increasing cyber risk landscape. So in today's discussion, we're going to be focusing on the challenges with current approach to cybersecurity practices and to how you can position your organization to implement a security posture to protect against ransomware, DDoS, and zero-day attacks. Key strategies and approaches to implement the next generation cybersecurity structure to try and get ahead of the bad actors. Situational awareness of cybersecurity risks is best achieved through a standard methodology to assess and provide the visibility of your organization to identify threats that are a part of that landscape. As a key takeaway, you will receive key insights to determine an organization's security posture and the visibility in order to maintain security as a business by quantifying and providing remediation actions and costs in order to mitigate attacks before they compromise your organization. Welcome again. My name is Ram Rajagopalan. I'm part of the Minnesota HIMSS chapter. I lead our programs committee. I've been with HIMSS for about 6 years now in different roles, member relation and programs. Excited to be here to meet with the esteemed panel from Fairview. Everyone on this panel has a lot of credentials and experience that I can only hope to connect with, right? So I think it's great that you guys are here. I'm going to let each of the panelists introduce themselves, their role in organization. They all work for the same organization, Fairview Health Services, and give us any interesting tidbits about themselves or about our cybersecurity in general. So I'll ask Jim to go first.
All right, thanks, Ram, and thank you for inviting us. Excited to be here. I've been at Fairview for about 2 years. I'm the VP of Infrastructure Operations, Vendor Management, and Security. Just a little bit about Fairview. It's about a 10 hospital system, 6 billion in revenue. I think we have about 100 patients in our 100,000 patients that we're managing their electronic health records. A total of 6 million in our Epic database. We've had a number of speakers, I think, that have come to HIMSS Minnesota chapter and spoken. So I think you guys know the organization pretty well. Twin Cities, and kind of branching out from there. 50 clinics. We have a large specialty pharmacy department, we're in healthcare. We're passionate about our mission. Just a quick tidbit: I'm a former HIMSS past president, the HIMSS of the California chapter. It's over there on the West Coast. Also was the VP of programs, so I know the hard work that's crank out these virtual as well as in-person events. So I think I have a second career as an event planner. And then I also was I started out my HIMSS chapter journey. I was I took over as the chair of the Academic Alliance Committee, which is all the students. And so students, really enthusiastic. They want to know how they're the emerging professionals. How do I get a job in healthcare IT? There's supposed to be all these jobs out there, so they got a lot of enthusiasm, and that is the future, Gen Z, millennials. So we're trying to bring those folks into security in our organization. So anyway, that's a little bit about me, and I'll turn it over to Dave.
Yeah, glad to be here. Dave Harvey. So I'm the Director of IT Risk Management Compliance, and I report in through Jim in our cybersecurity organization. I've been at Fairview just about 14 years and held a number of different roles during that time, and had a great opportunity to get exposure in those roles to different capacities, capabilities, right? Being in a clinical space, managing business systems in a clinical or a hospital provider setting, as well as running IT audit. And that's what really brought me across across the street to work with the cybersecurity folks more directly. And that's really where I wanted to be, and in the role that I'm currently in, leading that team. Tidbits about me, yes, I have not been a HIMSS member, though I've attended many events and have found them extremely beneficial, not only on the topics, but those who attended and getting network built across the Twin Cities. So that's been a spectacular opportunity for me, and just glad to be here to share some of the things that we've been doing in our shop and trying to help Fairview be more secure.
Thank you. Ashok?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity here. This is the first time I'm actually on a live webinar, so thanks for the opportunity here. So my name is Ashok Kallam. I'm the Director of Cybersecurity and Associate CISO for Fairview. I've been with Fairview for almost 4.5 years now, in a couple of roles previously. Prior to joining Fairview, I've been with SuperValue, which is a UNFI, is a company now, as a Senior Director, Identity Access Management there. And before that, I was in a startup company and did a lot of different roles within that company. And I worked as a service provider as a part of Wipro Technologies. So that's my first company that I joined for about 12 years. So overall, 23 years of experience in cybersecurity area. I'm also a practitioner, so which is important for me. I feel really great to work for Fairview simply because I'm just helping protect my own information, my daughter's information, my son who was born in Southdale Hospital. So it's related, it's personal to me. So I feel really proud to be associated with this organization and been here for 4.5 years. Part of my responsibilities is to oversee incident response threat management, which is again a 24/7 security operations. It's ongoing operations. And the third one is automation and engineering. So those are 3 areas that I oversee. Small little fact about me: I've born and brought up in India. I moved here in 2002. I like to say I've survived, the almost 20 years of 20 winters, I would say, in Minnesota. I speak 5 languages, and I've been in different countries as well. I lived in Japan and US and India, of course. So yeah, that's a few facts about me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ashok. Yeah, I can relate to the winters. I think we both are from probably the southern part of India, and I've had 10 winters, so I'm not sure I can go the 20 though. I think it's a little, so we'll see how it goes. Right. Again, thank you everyone for being here. I just wanted to talk to the audience a little bit and say that we are doing a fireside chat here, which would be a non-traditional webinar. Thank you, Jim, for promoting this concept with your team, and we're really looking forward to hearing the different perspectives, wide perspectives that your team brings to this fireside chat. Any questions that the audience has, we will attend to them. Please put it on the chat, and we'll take them up as time goes on. We have a set of questions that we have discussed with the panelists, and we're ready to go. And some of them might go a little faster, some of them might be more engaging. So we will see how it all plays out, right? So the first one is going to be around enterprise risk and broad awareness, right? I mean, there is a huge amount of attention being given to cybersecurity because of all the cyber crimes that are taking place. There are many organizations that are being attacked, and healthcare is also one of those organizations. Interestingly, healthcare has a lot of touch points with the outside world where the attacks might really come from. It's many different ways that a ransomware or a data theft might happen, or even a safety compromise might happen. So, so why do you consider, Jim, that cybersecurity to be such an important area to focus?
That's a good lead in. And by the way, just as a one last factoid here. That is not Lake Michigan behind me. It's a standard Zoom background, but I do work out of Southern California, so Fairview has embraced remote work from multiple states and actually other countries too. So anyway, so we're kind of facing the future, this hopefully post-COVID world. We're embracing it. So yeah, to answer your question, I think it's no surprise that healthcare is one of the critical sectors identified by the government. There's been a lot of shields up. There's been a lot of messaging that's gone out. The Ukraine-Russia, we've been sort of a side effect of cyber attacks coming because of the stance of our country. That so we're getting hit, but we were getting hit before then. We've got cases. I think we all know health systems, really large health systems that have been impaired to the point where they can't accept patients. We had, they're diverting patients. It's impacting patient care, and their revenue has been, significantly impacted. So I think that's probably the big one. It's no longer just an environment where it's about data breaches and, oh, okay, we got breached and we have to report it and there's possibly a fine. Now what I'm seeing is, the board of directors, the senior leadership, there's a strong concern about enterprise risk, and cyber is a top initiative, I know, in our organization at the non-IT level, at the top level. It's really about organizational resiliency and making sure that we can continue to serve our patients and our communities. So that, there's so many things that need to be done in order to, get us in a place of, being secure. So there's a saying that I've heard called 100% security equals zero functionality. So we don't want to be on the security side, the department of no, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. We want to be yes, and we want to be able to say, yes, that's a great idea. Let's see how we can do this securely, and let's think about organizational risk. So I know that the conversations that I'm having, and anytime we have to make a decision, how do we address this risk? It's always, is the money worth it to put into it to, reduce the worst case scenario? And so one of the things, and I'll share this real quick, is we've been looking into a methodology called cyber risk quantification, where we can list our top risks. And I would just encourage, every organization, whether you're small or large, or, because there's hundreds of things that we have to deal with, and there's limited funds. How do we know where to spend the money and with our few sources that we have? And it's, understanding what the likelihood of that risk is. What are the top risks? What would it cost to address it? Maybe pick the top 5 or something. And then if you don't do it, what's the worst case scenario? And so we're working with one of our insurance brokers to give us, like the way the insurance companies do an actuarial, they'll actually say, the risk is X amount of millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands. So it helps when you're talking to senior leadership. It helps when you're talking not in terms of like zero-day vulnerabilities and firewall rules. They don't really want to hear that kind of stuff. They want to know about, how do I keep going with patient care and how much money do I need to spend? So it's, it's a way to quantify, hey, I need these following 3 things done, and we need X amount of dollars, and then we'll avoid XXX amount of, fallout. And so not going down for 3 or 4 weeks is a very, very desired thing for the leaders of Fairview. We want to be able to keep our doors open. So I think that's just a high level view of how the organization is approaching cybersecurity. So it's a little different than it was a few years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. This is great. So yeah, I love your yes and right. You don't want to say no to everything, but at the same time, there are limited resources that you got to prioritize and go after the biggest action items first. So this is great. So the next question is for Dave. Dave, we're seeing a lot of attacks coming through healthcare supply chains, fraud, and almost 40% of the breaches are due to third-party business associate compromises. So given this scenario, what are the best practices that you recommend to address fraud and third-party risk management?
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly is, right? You hear about it all the time in the news, right? Where not only healthcare providers and companies are getting attacked and breached, but you hear vendors getting breached as well, right? So obviously in a healthcare environment, as all businesses, but it's specifically in healthcare, we rely heavily on our vendors, right? To not only provide products, but services alongside those products, right? Within our environment at different times. And so, what we've put in place is really a process to try, to evaluate products and vendors coming in the door, which is a continual life cycle, right? Healthcare is continually changing and upgrading, and new technologies and therapies are coming in. So of course, we're providing that for clinicians to make sure that they can provide that therapy. But all of that is coming at us quickly, at the same time trying to make sure that the vendors we have stay secure and up to date. So what we've done with our program, we used to have a homegrown manual process for evaluating our third-party risk. And that process worked to a point, right? And to the point being, I think we did a good evaluation and a fair assessment of those vendors and products when it came in the door. But what we weren't able to do is kind of leverage an assessment approach over the life cycle of that relationship and that product, right? So we do a point in time, we'd move on to the next one, and we really couldn't keep up and continue to look at those products in our environment. So we transitioned to an online assessment process, which is we've been doing now for the last few months, frankly. So we have all of our new products and assessments going through that online tool. And then we're catching up on the back end, right? We've got over 1,000 active vendors and products that we have live in the environment that we're responsible for reporting up third-party risk. And so now we're able to monitor those based on risk, so that we can go back, either 6 months, a year, or further out and do an assessment and make sure they haven't changed functionality. So that was probably the first big and best transition we've been able to make to help us get our arms around this thing, because it continually is growing. So obviously with that, we're never going to be successful if we don't have great people in that space. And so we've been able to assemble a team. We've been able to make investments in this space on my side and Ashok's side for that matter, but to really expand some of that. And what I mean is we've got some people on that team that have some core skills and broad breadth of skills, right? So we've got one person who's very deep in cloud technology, another person who's very deep in medical device, and then another person with software, right? They're all generalists and can do other things, but when we get into specific areas, we can look at that and really, once the vendor has returned the assessment to us, if we've got questions or gaps, we can then sit down and really work through mitigations on those gaps, specifically talking language that the vendor and we can all understand. So we can get to a point where we can accept that product into the environment. So that has been, those two things have been incredibly beneficial to improve our space. I think the other things that we've done and others need to do in this space is, one, to collaborate, right? So partly because I've been around for a while, but I've had opportunities to work with a lot of different groups in those roles, but especially in this role. And that is, we have a vendor management office that helps us with all of our contracting, et cetera. But there's times when we get into situations where we're not experts, we're not lawyers, though I have a lawyer on the team. But we need legal assistance to help us understand what we're looking at or understanding. So we've got a great relationship with our legal department, and there's a lawyer associated with IT, so we can leverage them heavily. The other is compliance, right? Obviously, we're in a HIPAA-driven environment, protecting our patients, protecting their data. So we've got a very close relationship with our chief compliance officer, privacy officer, so they can come in and help us with their teams. If we get into questions around, I'm not quite sure that this is where we want it to be, or if the security control isn't there, help us figure out how to mitigate that. So that's been helpful. And then the last one is really supply chain themselves, right? So obviously there's things coming through IT that we're managing. as an organization, but there's things that are coming through the business, our clinical engineering partners, right? Their devices, other things, going through supply chain. So we set up we've got a security exhibit and a workflow. So everything that touches our network, we put a security exhibit on, and that lists out our requirements, right? So we just pull that right out of our governance, put our requirements on there, and then those get added to the contract as they're going through contract negotiations, so that the vendors truly know what we're lining up to. And we apply that not only to IT, but we apply it outside in pharmacy and biomed and in some of those areas. So those are some of the other things that have been really helpful for us. So the last thing that I would say about it, going to that online assessment tool has really helped us, is now we can report, right? So as we talked about, why we want to do third-party risk assessment is managing that risk. We also want to, if something does happen, even if it's outside our environment, with this many products, this much software in the environment, devices in the environment, we want to quickly be able to identify them, right? Now we can do that, right? So we can go to that reporting tool. Yep, I know, oh, vendor X, I won't name them. Yep, we've got it in our environment, you know. Now let's look at that. What kind of data is involved? What kind of support? What kind of connection do they have, right? So those are the things that the tool is giving us now that we didn't have before.
Yeah, this is excellent, Dave. So Ashok, I'm kind of wondering if you could maybe add additional color to this, from your perspective, what we just talked about, right? In terms of best practices, and then also take on the next question, which is around the team, right? I mean, how it is not easy to find people with the right experience and wear multiple hats. So how do you go about finding the team, right? So it's like a two-part question for you, Ashok.
Yeah, thank you. Again, to add to what Dave and Jim alluded to in the beginning, the ability to assess and continue to assess the vendors who are doing the core business with us is important. As many instances recently, the core vendors who actually have agents deployed on our core systems to monitor, etc., they have been compromised, and therefore it is absolutely critical for us to keep their security controls being assessed through third-party risk assessment process. And Dave is helping, and his team is helping us to really stay on top. With respect to the staffing challenges, I mean, this is a universal problem. Across the board, cybersecurity professionals, we are absolutely competing with the same sort of pool of resources within the local markets, especially in the Minnesota Twin Cities. It's been a challenge, and a number of positions that we have had open for almost a year and a half have not been filled. And this is a global challenge for sure, but again, more predominantly local. I think it depends on, every organization has a different strategy to address this issue. But at Fairview, what we have done is we have looked at understanding what the current problems are. So we had two sets of problems. One is we have these different tools that we deploy, security tools, but we don't have a dedicated SMEs who are actually looking at these tools. Are they really delivering the value that we intend to get them delivered to for Fairview? Do we have enough focus on them to continuously engineer the solutions and really make them effective for the whole organization? And then there is a second aspect, is really who is actually right for these tools to manage? And are they engineers? Are they analysts? Are they are they applying different knowledge base to correlate the threats efficiently and go after additional features like threat hunting, etc. So we had a mixed bag of our talent within our existing structure at the time. So we have decided to organize ourselves into two different groups. I think one is the Dave's organization, which is focus on policy, governance, risk, and compliance. And then the third one, second one for cybersecurity, we said, we have, instead of doing this as a one person doing everything, supporting 24/7 production systems, attending to different calls, also engineering aspects, break them into three different groups. One is focused on incident response, threat management, assessment, and really going after bad guys, including threat hunting, etc. The second focus would be on automation and engineering. So they'll be focused on how do we enable these tools to deliver the value that we originally sought when we deploy these tools. They'll be focused on integrating those tools to become effective for applying their integrations to different tools like ServiceNow. Have we integrated ServiceNow? Have we integrated to CMDB? Have we integrated to other network tools effectively or not? So that focus, that group is focused on bringing that automation and integration focus and engineering focus. And then the third group is essentially focused on, okay, we have these tons of alerts, thousands of alerts coming, attacks coming in our way. How are these alerts being analyzed? Are there inherent threats that we need to be worried about? Is there a follow-up that one has to do to elevate a particular incident, that alert that is coming our way, analyze it and really make sure that it is nobody is stealing the data, or is actually not a breach, so to speak. So there are three different groups that we divided, and that actually helped us a lot to organize our talent pool and create a multiple other positions as well to attract the talent that we wanted, and that stabilizes our operations. And the last one I want to add is that the titles and the job descriptions that we had at the time a couple of years ago was completely old. I mean, it's not relevant. If you put a request for a security administrator, nobody's going to apply. But if you really make sure that it is talking about threat hunter, or if you're acquiring a knowledge talent for the cybersecurity senior analyst or principal analyst, so those will be the ones which are market focused, and therefore we can attract the right talent. So that's what we did in our organization, across Dave's organization and my organization. And we were able to attract the top talent and promote internal people to those positions, because they've been performing those roles for a long, long time. And that helps us to retain the existing talent as well. So that's a combination of methods that we apply on the staffing challenges.
Great, thank you, Ashok. Yeah, from best practices and the staffing strategy, and they kind of go hand in hand. Sounds like you guys partner really well together. Jim, if there's other additional thoughts you would like to add on the topic, and then the next topic we would like to take you to take up is ransomware. What is this is a huge concern. Now it's more than just data theft, but it's also extortion. So how is Fairview tackling that? You're on mute, Jim, sorry.
I was trying to avoid that, the mute call out. Yeah, so Dave did a great job explaining third-party risk, and Ashok kind of covered the staffing. There was a question from the chat, which I answered in the chat, but I just wanted to maybe just summarize it real quick, because it goes kind of covers what Dave talked about. But we've made a special effort in our organization to partner closely with finance and supply chain, and to make sure that all of the folks that are buying SaaS or just technology, whatever, that they just don't go out and buy the nice shiny technology toys, especially with IoT. There's medical IoT, but then there's just facilities. I mean, there's just stuff everywhere. In the hundreds of thousands of devices I know that we're looking at our organization. So how do you reel all that in so that it isn't trying to herd cats? So getting a risk assessment is really important, so we can take a look at it before somebody buys it. So it's difficult once it's already implemented. You can hear drilling in the walls and things. And what is that? Well, we didn't get a chance to look at it from a risk perspective. So that for a complex organization like ours, that just takes an agreement that the management is going to all pitch in and play ball together, and we're going to make sure that we look at things before it gets bought. So I think once people know that it's important to do that, it won't take forever to do the assessment, then, I think they agree to do it. To kind of just say a couple words on the next question. Yeah, ransomware, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, is a huge concern. The primary way that ransomware does come in is through phishing attacks, through email. We also see a lot of attacks coming in through web URLs that are, even if it looks like it's CNN.com, it could be a malicious link. So we started tracking the number of attacks that we get through email, through the web, through just people just trying to scan our for open IP addresses that are exposed through endpoints. So we're an organization of about 34,000 employees. We're pretty busy, we're active, but most people, especially if you've never asked a senior leader, hey, how many times have we gotten, or is somebody trying to attempt an attack and try to unauthorized access, they might say, well, maybe 3-4 times a week, a couple times a month. No, we're getting 650,000 attacks per day. And this is a medium-sized organization. So we made a special effort to correlate our logs just to track that information. We're getting them from, nation states. I'm not going to name all the countries because I'm, supportive of all the good people in all countries. But, they're definitely there. And so when I shared that information with some of the senior leaders, some of them were like, whoa, that's a lot. But we're talking per day here. So there's, millions per year. And so, there's a lot of holes that we need to close in healthcare because we have a lot of, we're very dependent on vendor systems, and many of them, particularly in the medical space, biomed, et cetera, we have a lot of older systems, and they have old operating systems that can't be patched. So staying on top of that requires, defense in depth. So we need multiple things to kind of stop somebody from gaining access and doing bad things. So there's another saying, you can't eliminate every attack. So there's no way that we're going to be able to stop every attack. So we can't have 100% protection, but we can do timely detection. So that's one of the things that we're, because we've, as Ashok mentioned, we've revamped the team. For those of you guys that are more on the cyber technical side, Betsy, I think she's listening in, or was, she would, be able to hopefully expound a little bit if we give her a quiz on this. But there's the MITRE, there's the kill chain where you have the red team, blue team, and purple team. So red team is going to go out and look for the bad actors. Blue team is going to be playing defense like a goalie and making sure they don't breach the hull. And then purple are people that can do a little bit of both. So anyway, so I think it's making sure that we have the right combination of people that can, as Ashok mentioned, that we can have people that actually their job is to just sniff out the bad guy or bad gals, because they're very sophisticated. They're not like tier 1 help desk or tier 2 or tier 1 cyber support. These people are very sophisticated. So we need people like that at our organizations, because otherwise we're going to be like totally outmatched. So that's important. Then we need the technologies. I think we'll talk a little bit about technologies. Hopefully we'll have time for that. So it's, if we detect somebody trying to access a server, maybe that's on the internet. So maybe they found some vulnerability, they were able to get in. But if we can immediately stop them from there with our, endpoint detection, for example, that's one of the layers, then we can basically kick them out. So I think the key is, it isn't just building a giant moat like the Great Wall of China with crocodiles and stuff swimming around it, because inside the corporate network, there's now a new thing we have to watch out for, and that's insider threats. And with everybody working remotely now, where is the we have a corporate network, but inside, outside, it's all getting mashed together. So, and maybe the last thing I'll comment on is we've spent some time on the ransomware side doing what's called a ransomware readiness assessment. So we've looked at our incident playbooks. We brought somebody in to kind of help us do what they do in the military. In the military, one of the things that why the military is so successful in the US is because the military practices over and over again for every worst case scenario. So they have run books and things. So we've been doing that, just getting not only on the technical side, but also if there was a significant ransomware event, what would the CEOs, what is the CEO supposed to do? What is the chief financial officer supposed to do? What about the head of pharmacy and patient access? You know, what do people do when IT is no longer available? You know, this has happened to healthcare systems across the country. So it's better for us to have rehearsed the worst case scenario, have run books, have it on the technical security side as well as the operations, and everybody knows what their role is, and we can just boom. You know, hopefully this won't happen. So we're in the middle of doing what's called tabletops and immersive. We're going to be doing some immersive exercises where everybody that would be involved in something like that, you know, we're going to be ready for it. So at least we'll be ready, and then we'll do our best to keep it from happening. And then we also, maybe last comment is, we've also worked with our vendors, let's say our backup vendors, storage. There's things that you can ask them to do to say, hey, can you give me like a ransomware readiness assessment on this piece of technology on storage? Is it ransomware bulletproof as much as possible? And they actually have, things that they can do, and then there's some will certify it. And so doing that is helpful. So yeah, so we can get help from our IT vendors to, you know, so if anybody's in that situation, that's something you could consider.
Okay. Yeah, great. A lot of tips in there. Definitely. So, you know, one thing that I kind of bursting to ask is, the military does a really good job of protecting against all kinds of threats, and so they have to, right? I mean, it's so critical as the national defense, and I don't think they have to work on a ROI, like a business ROI or anything like that. So I mean, you guys do, right? So how do you just, how do you justify to your business organization that, yes, this is great, this is the ROI, this is how much we need to invest in this?
Yeah, well, all we needed to do was look in the industry and the insurance companies, and I think maybe we'll talk a little bit about, is it possible to still even get cyber insurance now, and do they cover ransomware? But if you look at the amount of money now, there's one large health system, about half the size of our organization, that was hit with for a 3-week downtime of ransomware, and they could not operate. They were diverting patients, et cetera. So the total loss is 112 million for 3 weeks. And 90-something million was revenue that they could not collect because they couldn't do their elective surgeries, et cetera. And it was offset with about $14 million worth of cyber insurance. So yeah, so you can see that that's a very large number. So you don't really, in my mind, I don't think we need to convince our healthcare leaders that, hey, we want to make sure that we don't have 100 million, a three-figure million-dollar ding. And then there's reputational damage to the organization, and mostly there's patient safety. There's actually been cases we've been reading about where patients have either died or didn't get the care they needed right away, and they suffered tremendously. So we definitely don't want that. But at the minimum, you have to make a case for what are the top things the organization needs to do to prevent ransomware or to quickly detect it, get the cost for it. And to do a ransomware readiness assessment, it's not millions of dollars. It's really just bringing in somebody that's an expert for consulting time, and then they can help the team develop the run books and get the playbooks together.
Great. Thanks, Jim. Next question is to you, Dave. We all get emails, phishing emails, various threats, and I think in my company, I got some kind of an award for detecting the most number of unwanted emails or phishing emails, and I keep sending it to them, and sometimes they write back to me and say, no, this is actually legit. This is from Microsoft. You probably shouldn't be flagging this one. but so what are some of the things that you have done at Fairview to improve the security culture, Dave?
Yeah, Ron, it really, piggybacks up what Jim just said, right? We've got a lot of risk, a lot of attacks coming in the organization. So we certainly have, so in my teams, I've got two. So our security awareness arm really comes out of our governance and policy team. And so what we've tried to do, and anybody who's worked in healthcare, maybe it's in all industries, but certainly we face a challenge with awareness and education of our employees in this space, right? So the vast majority of our employees are clinicians and nurses that are sitting with our patients and providing, you know, services to them. And it's very difficult to get out to those folks, right? Because, hey, that's what they're doing. They're providing care. So what we've tried to do, it's multi-pronged of how we try and help create awareness, education, and protection of the environment. So in that group, so right, we are responsible. We do phishing campaigns against the organization. So we run campaigns every quarter. You know, we kind of a plan for the year of what we're going to run, how that's going to run, and then we look at those evaluations and then figure out how to improve tactics or communication. So we run a campaign, we finish it. We actually do follow-ups with people who fail the phishing campaign, so that they make sure that even though if they do fall for it, they get some education right there. But we do follow up with it even more afterwards to give them some materials, some things to consider, and help them along so the next time they don't fall for one of our campaigns, or, you know, hopefully not a malicious campaign that's come in. But the other things we do on a monthly basis is again, these people in the field primarily don't have a lot of time. So Fairview uses something called a 90-second news brief. We actually put an article in that newsletter that goes out so that people can quickly read, and we try and give them some tips about what's coming. For example, right, one of our campaigns was against Amazon. It looked like an Amazon phishing campaign, right? And because a lot of things were coming through Amazon, and not only at work, but at home as well, right? So we tried to give them pointers. We do that, you know, so we'll run specific campaigns around tax time, holidays, 4th of July, things like that, sales, the things come in, things that really, you know, seem like people see. And so we've been giving those news briefs to try and help people, especially those in our hospitals and clinic setting that frankly, you know, don't have time for us to come out and give them a great hour-long presentation on what they should be doing, you know, to protect the environment and not click on emails. So we look at those, we share that information, you know, the results of our campaigns with upper management, we share it with the board so that things can trickle down and help people. So we try and do that. I think one of the things that this year was really helpful for everybody is we finally were able to put a cybersecurity module for our annual learning for all employees in place, right? So before it kind of touched on it, but now this year we were able to actually put a module that everybody had to go through and attest that they took it. And so what we end up seeing from the campaign, the news brief, and getting in with new employees in that module is we start seeing a lot more people like you, Ram, reporting potentially malicious emails coming into the organization. So we see a nice steep increase in reporting, and we're seeing decreases on people clicking on links that they shouldn't. So those are some of the things that we're doing. You know, we're very fortunate. We were able to attract some talent. You know, Ashok talked about that, the difficulty of attracting talent, but we're able to attract someone who had a lot of experience in this space, and this is what she does all day long, is help educate people, because we're not looking to belittle people. We're looking to help educate them on what's coming in and what those attacks look like, and then they can use that same information at home. So those are some of the things that we've been able to put in place and really help protect, you know, especially that email stuff coming in the door.
Yeah, this is thank you, Dave. Yeah, news briefs, it's a great idea. So Ashok, this next question is for you, and I wanted to also maybe have you spend like 30 seconds on your previous question, which is around talent, right? I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, what tips can you offer to find the right people? I think one of the tips that you offered was, well, you know, be very specific in the job description, so you know what it is. But you know, if there are any other additional tips that you can offer the audience, I'm sure they'll be appreciated given the talent shortage that everybody's seeing. On technical controls, I know Jim kind of led into this a little bit on his previous comments about what are the important controls organizations need to make sure that they have in place. and what have you accomplished recently, right? Because there are a ton of security products, services, and platforms, but there are foundational gaps, and there's a lot of technical debt. So, so how do you improve the technical controls, Ashok?
Thank you, Ram. First of all, the talent retention and attracting new talent. This is a journey. It's not over yet. So, like I said, there's more positions open right now. Probably we can put a link in there so you can actually see if anybody is interested to apply. We're happy to interview them and take through the process. I think the talent acquisition, especially in the cybersecurity aspect. So there are two types of people generally. One who has already done that kind of work before, right? They're trying to look for additional opportunities or additional challenges, so to speak, or growth, career growth path. Essentially, those are the things that are really important to them. So you got to figure out what is the applicant is looking for. I think that will help you to navigate their understanding of your organization. So focus more on how they could help the organization to improve not just their current skills, but also to move into a next position, right? They're looking for career growth, that kind of thing. So that's important to connect with the applicant to really make them understand, how the organization is wide open here to be able to move from one position to another. The second thing is about in general about their passion. So some people who have not had experience at all in cybersecurity field, they're not pros by any means, but they are super interested because they're attracted to the cybersecurity world, and they are typically these are applicants at the entry level positions. So they might have been in a completely different area of interest. So those aspects, I think the applicants, when we try to look at it, so, okay, what has he done in his area of choice, his or her area of focus? Has he or she has demonstrated the passion for their current work? Because I truly believe that the passion dictates a lot of your growth path, if you will, from a career perspective. If you're passionate and you have a right support system, you would be able to thrive in that system no matter where you're coming from. A lot of our people who are rock stars today have been a non-computer science background, they have no idea what the computer science was before, and now they figured out how everything from nuts and bolts all the way to threat hunting. So I think it's important to keep an open eye on what they're pursuing and trying to match that with the options and talent positions that we have, and that will help us to stabilize. And third important thing is reputational references. So people who know somebody else, that's how they get referred back, and that's a good way to keep attracting the talent and encouraging them to go. And like I said, I think this is not over yet. We have a lot of positions continuously open, and we're going to open more positions as we go into 2023 as well. So it's going to be an ongoing battle. We can't certainly pay super high rich salaries like Best Buy does or US Bank does, but we will offer a great environment and an ability to protect your own data, your neighbor's data, and your community data. I think that's what we are very strong at. Coming back to the controls, I think, and in general, there are so many things. I mean, especially if you ask anybody in the cybersecurity field, they'll say, how to even prioritize? Not one control is, you just can't focus on just one control, right? So we have to focus on different controls at the same time in order to understand where you are and how do you protect yourself and how do you detect and move forward. I personally categorize them, the basic controls, into three core categories. One is who, basically, I'll explain what that means. And another one is what, and then the third one is where. I think these, again, there are other things as well, like how, why, and when, all those aspects. Those are advanced controls, in my opinion. But the who, what, and where are essentially the core controls that you have to address. Who comes to, who are we trying to, is it a user? Is it a service account? Is it a bot account? Is it a machine account? Is that a, so that's important for you to map. And for that, identity and access management controls are there. You have a different variety of products who can actually help to do that, and tie that each of those identity to a source. Employee HR system, a contractor ID, contract management system, a student management system, some sort of a process must be there in order for you to vet these sources as authoritative, and that becomes your foundational control of tracking who. I think that's important. The second one is essentially, and I'll switch the order, where, where is that particular who is trying to interact with your IT systems? So is it through the network, outside of a cyber cafe, or is he connecting through on-prem? He's walking into one of the locations, pharmacies or hospitals, and really trying to access the system. Or is he going from home? He's connecting on a VPN to get into our systems, etc. So it's important to know where that particular person or the who, which is again a subject there, is interacting with your computing systems. So that's how the controls associated with the where is essentially Cisco ICE, then network access controls. You have MFA, if it is coming from a remote location, untrusted location, you enforce MFA, multi-factor authentication, that is. You enforce VPN solutions to make sure that you can literally have their machine join the network and with MFA. So those are the controls that you would want to focus on. The third part, which is again what, is essentially that there are a lot of things in that what bucket, I would say. Is a who acting or interacting with your IT systems from a machine provided by the company, or is it a personal device? Is he accessing email on the O365? Is he swiping his badge against medical desktop SSO, single sign-on, Improvada, for example? Is he swiping to get onto Epic EHR system? All of those aspects bundled into that what, and you have a ton of controls that you would want to focus on. First of all, is it machine secure enough? Because if you are providing from your own machine, company provided machine, it has to have a domain issued certificate. So it should validate, that particular certificate, that particular machine is issued by you, and you have tagged it to internal systems, and you are able to trust that. Second is, if it is not a trusted system, then can you apply MDM, the mobile device management tools, to like Intune, etc. So can we actually help secure that device to be able to help them navigate using those tools to get onto a system? The third probably would be, apply the PIM and PAM solutions, especially if the person is trying to use his device, company provided device from VPN, but trying to administer a firewall or a router or any kind of administrative action, then you should be able to force using a PIM and PAM solution, privileged identity and privileged access management solution, to be able to check out a password and do the administrative action and then check back in. So those are the different aspects that I would control on the what side. And you have network discovery tools like Order, for example. Any medical device that is connected to the network, guest network or internal networks, you'll be able to automatically pull that information and tag that and see if there are any identified vulnerabilities on them, etc. So that's always who, what, and where is what I think we should be focusing on for what kind of level of controls each company has to focus, how foundational they are, varies from company to company and from how their business is, what their risk appetite is. And so you would be able to peel that these three layers more diligently and really enforce the controls appropriately. But if you combine three of them together, who, what, where, and coupled with how, why, and when, all that stuff, you would want to have a program which is, okay, are you correlating these logs from these different aspects, different who part and what's and where's, and are we correlating information so your analysts are making sense of what's actually happening with the event of interest that you are looking for? Is there an incident response plan ready in case if certain things go really wrong? Do we have digital forensics tie-up, even if you don't have internal forensics capability? Do you have an external party that you subscribe to who can help you to identify and do the further investigations, etc.? So that's how you put down these layers one by one. And most often we don't have the luxury of selecting only who and then going after that. Unfortunately, we have to do all of these combined together at the same time. But this will help you to organize your, say, what does mean, who means to your organization? What does what means to your organization? What does your where means to your organization? How important these are, and what kind of controls you already have and what the gaps are, and really tie all those things together to advance your security posture. That's what we did at Fairview, and we'll continue to do the same.
Thank you, Ashok. Yeah. Who, what, and where. So thank you, panelists, for joining us. And the session is recorded, will be hosted on our website. So I'm sure people who couldn't attend because of conflicts will be able to review it later. Appreciate your time and wish you guys all a great weekend.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for the opportunity again. Bye.
Okay.